we didn't go, there were no refugee camps. People kept on, I picture lines meandering through the hills of unending humanity in a line, just all moving in the same direction and following what may be a foot trail where the people go from one village to another, whether they use their donkeys and whatever. The first village we came to, I'm not sure whether it's Silbit or Al Burj was the name of it. Some family from that town, from that village, recognized us by the name. One of my uncles was the registrar of the village and that area where he would register. People would come to him to have land dealings. So they knew of us, and they said, why don't you stay in the schoolhouse? It was a 2-room house. And the Mansour clan was pretty sizable, not just our immediate, but the uncles, cousins, and so on. And the 2 rooms were really jammed.
How many people do you think?
Probably about 30 to 40 people. And these are all cousins and aunts and uncles. Not much uncles. I don't know what the uncles were doing, because it seemed like all I recall is the women and the children and maybe some of the elder people. And we were going to lay there until the 15th, because in the 15th, boy, the Palestinians you'll go back to your house, and everything's going to be just fine, because the people don't just lose everything they have. Somebody comes and takes it over. Well, we learned something, that there was a different story waiting for us to happen. We didn't know where my brother was. Neither one of my brothers. We didn't know where they were. The word came that my brother, not the young one, but the one who was leading the militia, had gone back to the village, because evidently they have attacked the Haganah, or one of the 3 gangs, Stern, Irgun, Haganah. Anyway, came to the village. They didn't find anybody there, and they moved on to the next village. As they were leaving, they planted mines around the town. And who knows about mines? Actually, the village young men who were making up the militia, maybe some of them didn't even know how to read and write. So my brother was already being called doctor. He just finished his MD. In fact, he was in the same class as George Habash, as some of you. George Habash is still around, right?
No, he died.
He died? Allah yarhamah. So he read up on the mine handling, and showed his comrades how to do it, and they were working on opening up safe areas for people to come back in. As luck would have it, there were no cars going by much. Somehow there was a truck that came through the village, and they loaded him on the truck, and they took him through a latrine up the hills ended up in Ramallah to get some treatment for him. Of course, what happens to you, the way they described his body was all pretty well tore up, but he held on to life. He was still breathing as they entered Ramallah, and went in that town at the time, the school, as I talked to Hussam, the American Quakers school, called the Friends Boys School, had been closed because of the intensity of the fighting, and turned into into a first aid and luck hospital to treat. That was his alma mater as far as high schools. He went to school there for high school and went to AUB from there, so he made the complete circle. He also shepherded 4 years prior to that, shepherded a cousin of mine who was a good student to go to that same school, who was already still in there in Ramallah. So he got to see him just for evidently just minutes before. Just to add to the reality of it, that's him. That's my brother, Ahmed. I carry this picture. We keep it, as did most houses of the village. They knew him. They valued him. In fact, they knew his value to the community a few years before that. He and George Habash and a few of their classmates in Beirut came to the village one summer and dedicated their summer vacation to mukafahat al-ummiyya, to have literacy school for the adults, because the adults who were principally just farmers did not have any chance to go to school. They needed to learn how to read and write.
We only have a few more minutes, so can you tell me what happened to your family?
Well, after this was the Nakba. This was our Nakba. He was returned back to the village because they, as I said, they had withdrawn. The Hagna, whoever came, went back out, and he was buried in the village. My father was strong enough. He took this Nakba pretty well. He was compensated for his services in the British mandate government. He got some money, he and his brothers. I'm shortening it now, and that he and his brothers put the money that they got from the government for service rendered, put it together, and we moved to Jordan, and they started their new life. My mother, who was a very strong person, could not take the thrust of what has happened to them. She was mentally not there. Went being quiet, and instead of the lively, steady person that she was before. And in 51, this was in 48, in 51, she died just while she was still in that state of not recognizing anything. So the Nakba meant losing your home, your country, your reference for the future, at least the parents anyway, because all of my father's earnings, and he earned pretty good money. He was getting $60, 60 pounds per month. That's another 200 and some odd. But he spent that all on his son, educating him, and she could not take that. And in our case, we moved to Jordan, to a village outside Amman. That was on the orders of my father. It turns out that we had some distant relatives in that village. The village is called Sahab, and it's just probably about 10 miles east of Amman. And we went there, at least where somebody knows us. We got a tent from the United Nations, so we lived in the tent for the better part of a year. And then my father bought a two-room house there, and pooled their money, he and his brothers, and bought a flour mill, and we started life anew. And but they had this one young son. That's me, and who was very good in school, and my cousin who was going to the French school had finished. He went and talked to my father. He said, "What are you going to do with Tahir?" He said, "What?" He said, he's got to go to school. There were no schools in that village. There were no public schools in Amman even. I think there were some private schools. I know there were some private schools, but I don't think there was public higher schools. He said, "We got to send him to school. Where?" Well, the only place is Ramallah. You go back from Amman to Ramallah. And I was a boarding student, spent the best 4 years of my life in that town. That's where the American influence started, where it enabled me 4 years later to leave. I finished my high school studies. Actually, I didn't finish the high school itself. I skipped 1 year. But and I was able to come to America with some coaching as how you would do it. The coaching was by a young, I got to give him credit, a young American teacher who was teaching us in that French school, Graham Leonard, God bless him wherever he may be, from Knoxville, Tennessee. He said, "What are you going to do after you finish high school?" I said, "Well, you know, I'm a refugee and I got to work and help my family." He said, "Well, what about college?" I said, "Well, college is for people with money. We don't have any money." He said, "If you can get to the States, you can go to school and work and pay for yourself, and you won't need anybody." And I was 17. At 17, you can shake the world by the tail, you know, and you don't scare. You don't play the game or whatever, except my father did. Anyway, so I managed to convince him, and it taught me how much my father, who never spent a day in school, he was self-taught to read and write, how he valued education, and he was able to get me some money just to travel, to come to the States, and I got scholarships and so on. And
That's great.
And the pleasant side of my life started when I got here. I have now, I do have three children, 5 grandchildren. I'm blessed, and my wife is sitting right there. And my eldest son is sitting right there, Jamil. And this is definitely my home. Warm heart, warm feelings for just about everything American. Obviously, not some of the policies, but we're not supposed to be warm.
Well, thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you so much.